Hello and welcome to another video on the Stevie's Cars YouTube channel. As you can see, today I have here my Reliant Robin. So as you could probably guess, this video is about the famous, or should I say infamous, plastic pig, the Reliant Robin. A car which has terrorised Britain's roads for over 50 years. So, as you know, this is my 1976 Reliant Super Robin 850 saloon. I call her Roxanne. Being a cheap car from the 70s, she of course features big round sealed beam headlights, a carburetted engine, a 4-speed manual gearbox, no ABS and no power steering. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised that there's a heater. However, being the Super Robin, the high-end model, she features, as standard, front fog lights which have fallen off. Lovely chrome bumper overrider thingy-majigs, which on the front end have fallen off and on the back end are in the process of rusting away quite badly. Rear fog light and a reverse light as well on the back, both of which have also fallen off. And the mighty Reliant 850cc engine that boots out 40 horsepower and gets you to a whopping top speed of 80 miles per hour. Which is not fast at all, but in this I'm sure is absolutely bloody terrifying. So, I bought this car a couple of years ago and it was sold to me as a non-runner. However, it was 99% complete and 99% original. So it was still actually pretty good, all things considered. Very quickly, me and a couple of friends managed to get it working, and by the start of July last year, I had it out on the road and I was driving it around. Drove it about for a few weeks, took it to a couple of shows, and then it suffered a catastrophic engine failure. And the engine basically exploded. That's the only way I can describe it. So then it spent a few months off the road while I sourced a new engine as well as a new gearbox and did various other jobs on it that wanted doing as well. Then I got it back on the road again in December last year. And since then I've just kind of been driving it about every now and then. It's mostly reliable. It's still has a few issues, overheats quite easily if you're not careful. I think it's a dodgy water pump or something, but generally it works. That's what's important. It works. So there you go, that is my car. So, time for a tour. Let's start the tour of the Reliant Robin at the back. As you can see, we've got these indicators and rear lights, you know, the usual. Super Robin 850 lettering to tell you what car it is. The rusty rear bumper overrider thingy-majigs that I mentioned. An exhaust, because that's what you have on the back of a car. And a rear number plate that is actually the original number plate from 1976. Got this original front one as well, as you would have seen. And now, my favourite feature of the entire rear end of the Reliant Robin saloons, the Mark I Robin saloons, is the back window, because this doesn't have a boot door. To get into the boot, you open the back window. It's got this neat little self-deploying arm to hold up the window as well. It's just a big glass panel that just hinges up. It does leak a bit. I've done what I can to stop it leaking. Hasn't really made much of a difference, but it's better than it was when I bought it. When I bought it, the boot was full of water. So I've done something right, I think, because it isn't now. And then, of course, to close the back window, you put it slightly higher up, just all the way until it can't go any further, pretty much. And then you just bring it back down again. So, coming round to the side of the car, you will notice the doors don't actually match. They are the wrong colour, they've got the wrong handles, and they've got the wrong mirrors. Now, this is because the original doors were in a terrible state. They were all smashed up and broken. The fiberglass was all breaking up. The window frames were all rusty. The winding mechanism for the windows was seized. And the door handles didn't always work. And the hinges were in a really bad state, so the door would try and fall off every time you open it. So I put different ones on that were in a slightly better condition. But they are the wrong colour. And they've got the wrong handles and the wrong mirror because they are for Mark II Robin, not a Mark I. So they're like 20 years younger than the rest of the car. But I don't care. What's important is that I've got doors that do work. Now, coming round to the front, as I mentioned, big round sealed beam headlights, as well as a lovely chrome grille. Now, this isn't the correct grille for a 1976 Robin. but I thought the 1976 grills were ugly, so I put one of the 1973 grills on it instead, and it looks a lot nicer. Obviously got the Reliant badge because that's the only way you could possibly identify what this car is. It's not like it's the most recognisable car you've ever seen. And then going down, original front number plate, as I mentioned. And below that, the defining feature, one front wheel. The thing that makes the Reliant Robin what it is. Then coming up over the bonnet, we have my windscreen wipers. Lovely chrome windscreen wipers. Now, the original ones were in a terrible state. They were about half the size of those, and the rubber was all worn out, so that they were just scraping the window. So I put new ones on, and they work. They only have a single speed, it's on or off, so they're terrible in really heavy rain, but they do work. So, under the bonnet of the Reliant Robin, you will find that mighty 850cc engine, along with the heater, the battery, the radiator, the air filter, all the usual stuff. Now, as you know, it's not the original engine. This engine is actually from the 80s, as is the gearbox. And the heater that's in here is from the 90s. So this car is actually a little bit of a Frankenstein's monster, or I suppose Frankenstein's tricycle, with all that and the doors being from the 90s and all that, but you know, it works. What I've done is put in parts that work rather than parts that are actually correct. So I don't really care, as long as it looks all right. When I repaint it and put the correct mirrors and handles on, then on the outside it will look original. So that'll do. So inside the Reliant Robin, you will find the most shining example of 70s budget motoring. There is just plastic as far as the eye can see in here. You've got your plastic dashboard, plastic door cards, plastic centre console. Even the steering wheel is made of plastic. It's quite a nice leather cover on the steering wheel, which is much better than the cold hard plastic, but that's not a standard part. That's just something someone's put on there at some point. Just to the right of the steering wheel, you have the indicator and headlight stalk, so that controls your indicators, your full beams, and your horn is on there as well. Then you've got on your dashboard all of your gauges, your speedometer, which is surprisingly accurate, temperature gauge, which doesn't work, fuel gauge, which I do not trust, oil and volts, don't trust either of those gauges. Then all your buttons, you've got your wipers and your headlights and your demisters and all that are all switches on the dashboard, and your hazard lights. And that switch, I'm pretty sure, is in the wrong place, but the wires don't reach far enough for me to put it in the right place. Then moving down onto the centre console, you've got the choke handle. There should be a handle there for the heater, but I've not got that. And then your gear stick and your handbrake lever, both in easy reach. Obviously, as you can see, back seat's not the same as the front seats. It doesn't match them, that's because it's not original. Headlining's in a terrible state. Carpets all need doing. It's all a bit work in progress, but it'll do. Anyway, should we go for a drive? So, what's it like to drive the plastic pig? Well, you're going to be very surprised when I say this, but it's actually, I quite enjoy it. It's actually good fun. Yes, it's noisy. Yes, it's terrible ride quality. Makes a funny smell sometimes when the 50-year-old wiring starts to heat up and burn off all the dust on it, you know. But it's a good bit of fun. Yes, the seats are uncomfortable. Yes, it feels like it's going to tip over when you corner too fast. I've never had it tip over, but it feels like it's going to half the time. But it is just fun. That's all it is just a fun car to drive. Ow. It's not very good when it comes to speed humps, I must admit. So yes, it's noisy and it's uncomfortable, but everything's really quite easy to handle. It's quite an easy car to drive. Steering wheel is a nice and small, nice decent sized steering wheel really for such a small car. And it's exact right distance that I can just comfortably sit here with my hands on it. It's not any effort to reach the steering wheel like you get in some cars, but that's, I suppose it's not going to be far away from you because it's such a small car. It's impossible for anything to be out of reach of the driver in something so little. The gear stick, it's right next to you, right here, and It's only got 4 gears, and when you put it into gear, it makes a nice pleasing little clicking sound because the gearbox is directly underneath the gear stick, basically in the car with you. So you hear it, basically. You hear the noises of the gear stick. It's quite a good, quite nice to change gear, really. I quite like it. Yeah, so the pedals are nice and easy as well. They're easy reach. I'm not having to stretch my legs at all, but they're also not so close that I can't stretch my legs if I want to, if that makes sense. Your accelerator pedal in this one, I find the accelerator pedal is a little bit loose, but I think that's just my car rather than all of them, rather than all Robins. I get the impression that that basically all the other Robins, the accelerator pedal is like in any other car, and it's just mine where it's a little bit loose, a little bit wobbly. So it's quite easy in mine to accidentally just floor it without meaning to, because there's no force acting against you on the pedal. But to be honest, after a while you get the hang of it, and as I said, I think that's just mine having a worn out throttle cable more than anything. You don't have ABS in this, so you do need to be a bit more gentle on the brakes, but you know, it's all right really for braking. The brakes, despite it only having drum brakes and only having 3 wheels, the brakes are surprisingly good because it also weighs nothing. So the brakes don't have to work very hard to stop the car. The one drawback is, because they're drums, if they get too hot, they stop working. The clutch pedal, nice and easy as well. The biting point is a little bit low, but I think I just need to give the cable an adjustment really to sort that out. But it is quite a sensitive clutch. It's quite easy to stall it if you don't have enough revs going. But it's, once again, you get the hang of it after a while. And the clutch pedal kind of, it feels the same really as any other car, maybe just a little bit more sensitive compared to a modern car, but it's basically just, you know, it's a clutch. What more could you need, you know? The mighty 850cc engine powering us up this medium hill. So, is it fast? Well, to put it simply, no, it really isn't. Reliant claimed that the 850cc engine, which is what's in this, which makes 40 horsepower, will get you to about 80, maybe 85 miles an hour. I have not tried that. The fastest I've gone in this is 70, and I got scared and slowed down because it became very clear what it needs is 5 gears and 4 wheels for that sort of speed, really. Look, the Bentley Continental. My car's better than yours. When it comes to acceleration, apparently it'll get from 0 to 60 in around somewhere between 14 and 16 seconds. Various different sources kind of have different answers to that question. Now, I would demonstrate it, I would test and see if it can do that. However, I value my life, so I'm not going to do that. You're just going to have to take my word for it that it will do 0 to 60 apparently in between 14 and 16 seconds, which is alright, it's decent for what it is, I suppose. But as I said, you're just going to have to take my word on that one, just like the top speed, because I am not going to test it out. So, is it practical? Well, a little bit, yes. I suppose anything with a body on it is practical if you've only got a motorbike licence. So for someone who's only got a motorcycle licence, then yes, absolutely, this is a practical car because you can actually use it, and it's got luggage space and seats rather than nothing like a motorbike has. So yes, I suppose for a motorbike licence holder, yes, it is practical. But is it practical as a car for people who have car licences? And the answer to that is still surprisingly, sort of. Ow, bit of a bump there. It's got 4 seats, so you can fit 4 people in it. It's got a surprisingly big boot. The boot on this is marginally bigger than the boot on a brand new Fiat 500. I'm not even joking. If you really need to, look it up. So obviously it's not the most practical thing because you do have to kind of lift stuff quite high to get it into the boot. Obviously, as you saw, you have to go through the back window doesn't have a proper boot door. However, the van and estate versions, they are really easy to get stuff into. It's the entire back of the car just opens up. And the later models that got hatchbacks done, those once again very, very practical, very easy to get big and heavy things in and out of the boot. So yes, this is a practical car. The only drawback is that it's 50 years old, so sometimes it doesn't work. So being a 70s car, obviously it's got quite a lot of pitfalls to it. But they did improve the Robin over time. So when they first brought it out in 1973, it only came with a 750cc engine, and it wasn't very powerful, wasn't very quick. It was about 30-ish horsepower. From what I heard, it could just about manage 60 miles an hour. Then in 1975, they brought out the 850cc engine, which is what's in this car. And the 850cc engine, as I've said, 40 horsepower, get you up to about 80-ish apparently. Although, as I said, I haven't tried it, I'm never going to try that. But 850cc engine at 40 horsepower could get you up to about 80 miles per hour. But the trouble with the Mark I Robin is it's not very easy to work on the engine, because where the engine's located in the Robin, it's kind of in the car with you. So you open the bonnet and you can only reach the sort of top and front of the engine. You can't get to the back. You have to basically drop it out the bottom of the car to do that. So in the early 80s, Reliant decided to replace the Robin with a new car, which they called the Rialto. Now the Rialto was basically facelifted Robin, had Metro headlights, big plastic slotty grille on the front, proper sort of early 80s, very cheap British car sort of looks to it, similar looks to the Metro. And the Rialto was underneath all the same, and the interior was the same. It was just the exterior that was changed. However, one thing they did change on the inside of the Rialto was they added access panels in the footwells on either side, so that you can actually get to the sides and back of the engine from inside the car, which makes it much easier to work on than the Robin. And the Rialto, they produced that through the 80s. They improved the practicality of it after a while as well. They brought out a hatchback version to replace the saloon, because obviously a hatchback is marginally more practical than a saloon. Then in 1989, Reliant decided to resurrect the Robin. So they launched the Mark II Robin, which was basically just a facelifted Rialto using Ford Fiesta headlights, that came as a van, estate or hatchback, and they made those throughout the 90s. Now the Mark II Robin had the same access panels on the inside as the Rialto, so it was, you know, nice and easy to work on. The one issue is that the Mark II Robin and the Rialto throughout the 90s became a bit rubbish. Reliant's build quality in the 90s was absolutely horrendous, and most people would generally agree that the Rialtos and Robins from the 90s are amongst the worst cars that Reliant ever built. So in 1998, Reliant decided to drag the Reliant Robin kicking and screaming into the 21st century with the launch of the Mark III Robin. Now the Mark III Robin was meant to be this new modern look for the Robin. It was meant to bring it into the 21st century. But Reliant ceased producing vehicles in 2001 because, as it turned out, there was no longer a market for three-wheeled cars. So what even was the point of three-wheeled cars? Why did Reliant, as well as other companies such as Bond, Morgan and even BMW and Mazda, make three-wheeled cars? What was the point of a three-wheeled car in the first place, you know? Why was it such a widespread thing? Basically, as far as the government are concerned, this is a motorbike. Now that is a bit of a simplification. In the law, there is a loophole that allows you to drive a three-wheeled car with either a car or a motorcycle license. And the reason for this is basically because three-wheeled cars are just an unholy mishmash of car and motorcycle. good. This was very beneficial to a certain group of people, that being working class people, such as miners and factory workers, who back in the day couldn't always afford to have a full car licence and would go for a motorbike licence instead, because it was cheaper to obtain the licence and cheaper to run a motorbike than a car. Yeah, so it's all well and good the miners having motorbikes, but motorbikes aren't very practical, are they? There's not really any luggage space or space for passengers. I suppose you can have a sidecar, so you've got a seat for your passenger or some luggage space. There's not much space and it's not very comfortable for your passenger in the sidecar. And then you've got the other issue of the winter. Mr. Coal Miner is going to get pneumonia riding around on his motorbike in the winter. So what does he do? He buys a Reliant, so he can drive it on his motorbike licence, and the tax is like on a motorbike. It's got the pros of a motorbike, of it being cheap to run and being able to be driven on the motorbike licence. So as well as the pros of having a motorbike, you also, with the Reliant, you've got the pros of having a car. You've got 4 seats and a boot, so you can carry luggage and passengers. You've got walls, windows, a roof, doors to keep you warm and dry in the winter. And most importantly, it's a car, not a motorbike. So it's just better. So three-wheeled cars, not just Reliance, but just three-wheeled cars in general, were incredibly popular with the likes of coal miners and factory workers and so on in the Midlands, who didn't have much money. However, since then, of course, the market for three-wheelers has dried up completely, which is why Reliant went bust, because they thought they could just keep making three-wheeled cars. There wasn't anyone left to buy them. So these days, three-wheeled cars are just a novelty, really. It became easier to obtain your car licence and became more affordable to have a car, so people just started buying cars. So that's that then. The Reliant Robin, 3 wheels, plastic body, tiny little engine, and a driver with either balls of steel or a death wish. Now, I can't think of much else to say on it, so I'm just going to end the video here, if that's all right. In the next video, I do have a completely different car to show you, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, I shall see you in the next video. Goodbye. Bugger.